So let's see together how can we finalize the image. There's a few things we can do, a few, you know, improvement we can have at the end. One, for example, is to add even more details, and that's something that I normally do only on the focus point. Okay, so for example, let's say that we want to add details there on that chunk of rocks. I mean, it's not easy because sometimes you have the image on the left and you're trying to paint very small details. And since we want to do a better job, we want to zoom in. So what to do? We go to Windows Arrange and New Windows, and so we can, the touch clone of the window. We can zoom in that window, and we can zoom in even in the, in the one we are working on. And so it's a lot easier to do a better job because you have, the touched windows that, is zoomed in, and we can have an easier life painting all those details. Again, I would not do that if I'm not working on the focus point, especially on paintings. You don't want to add details where you don't want to look at. That's the thing. Okay. But anyway, depends on your image, depends on how much you want to spend on those details, and it also depends on how big is that part of the scene, because if it's too small, I don't know if people will see it. So in the end, what's really important is not like details, is the overall shape, the overall silhouette should be correct and values should be correct. Okay. Another thing we can definitely work on is texturing, which means that we can create, new brushes customized for the scene. For example, in this scene, there's a lot of like small dots, and like details on the rocks. They're not shiny, they're not perfect surfaces. They are like raw and full of dents and really, detailed. So we can try to make our custom brush scattering around small dots, small lines. And when we find something we like, we can go back on the main file, make a new layer, and painting, an overlay, or painting with like a slightly brighter or slightly darker value, or even go with the color option. So we have like in the foreground we have a darker color, in the background we have a brighter color. We randomize the color for each tip, for each stroke we do, and that's a very easy way to add tons of details, tons of small dots in this case. And we can use the same brush in different ways. We can like squish it and put it in vertical, or we can just make a new one. For example, in this one I want more dots because I want to paint some meshes, some shape like that, because I've seen them in the original painting. So you see, this is another brush I've done. You can also, if you don't want to paint everywhere, you can also select one area and then paint inside that selection, and that's a cool way to paint only there. And it's really easy, and in this way you can add tons of details. Again, I repeat myself a lot, but it's really important, and that's why we don't lose our sleep on details too much in the first part, because it's a lot easier to add them at the end. So keep in mind, if you have very small areas, very small details to add, don't mind them. Keep them for last, and it will be a lot easier. Now you see, I'm trying to use the same brush, but in different ways. And of course, you can save more than one instance of a brush. Maybe you can, have circles, and then after that you can have small lines if you have no scattering, and you just drag the brush. Anyway, this is important, and it should be something you do at the end. Okay, so adding details. And then we can paint some shadows. Okay, I mean, in this case, I'm painting some shadows mixed to reflections. And you know what? The thing is, I'm doing it right now since I need a different brush. Okay, so I work like 99% of the time with that rectangular brush, and now I cannot do nice gradients with that brush. So I'm just going with a round, soft brush, and I'm going to paint like small like areas. I think that they need more like a soft gradient. I see, for example, like in those shadows slash reflections, and it's a lot easier to do that with a round soft brush. Of course, I'm going down with the opacity because I don't want to, exaggerate and too fast. So I go down with the opacity. You can go down with the flow if you want also, and you can just check what's happening in their reference image and painting a little bit of those shadows. I mean, it's up to you. You can do this any moment, but I felt like that this was the right moment to do it at the end. So I knew that I had to render those shadows from the beginning, but I kept that for the last. Now we can also paint some light. Okay, instead of painting with a white brush, you see I put a new layer, black layer in color dodge blending mode, and I'm painting some patches of light with a bright value and a very low opacity. And in that way, since I already have like a brighter areas there, see, I'm just painting with this method, and it's really easy to do, really quick to do, and it's really effective because anyway I'm painting light. So if you remember, black layer color dodge, it's very useful to paint light, and it makes a lot. It makes a difference. And now that part it's a problem because in the original image is kind of blurred, and what I have is something very sharp. But anyway, you can use this black layer and color dodge to add like small speculars everywhere. Depends on what you need. And now for the next step, I need to make a single layer of the whole image. So you select everything and you press Ctrl Alt E, or you just press Ctrl Alt Shift E, and then with the smudge tool I start smudging. And since this image is very big, I suggest you to do very small movements and with the smallest brush possible. And as you can see, I'm just kind of solving the problem of having like very sharp edges, especially in the sky and in the water. Again, I already knew that I had to do this from the beginning, but it's a lot easier to paint with the rectangle brush for me and then just smudge the result at the end. Otherwise, the other way around could be to just paint with the soft brush. But sometimes you need sharp edges. So I want to decide where and when and how to smudge the image, and then you can like just smudge a little bit horizontally to have something like a water effect, because we have waves and because you have distortion of the water. And then I do the same here because I've seen that in the regional sky we have some kind of lines. The last thing I can think about here is to add a little bit of vignetting. So I just pick a brown soft brush, low opacity, black color, dark color, maybe not black but very dark gray, and I just paint a little bit on the corners. And if you can also zoom out, or you can even check the navigator on the right and to understand where exactly to paint some darker areas. You see, I mean, it's easy to see that the original photo is darker there. And I mean, this is something you can do at the end. If you don't want to do it on the image, you can make an empty layer and do it in an empty layer, or a white layer, put it in multiply. So this is what you can do, and of course it's just like a few tips. You can, go on and applying them everywhere, especially details with custom brushes.